And they fail, we fail, to include one another. And whether it's to feel special because you're the only one there, or to avoid being excluded in the next case by the people who invited you, it's not right. Because the women that were pioneers that came before us in no way acted alone. They fought together publicly and in secret, but always together for themselves and for others. So every woman speaking here today is a pioneer in her own right, whether it's in terms of sports, culture, politics, or otherwise. The result of their efforts, our efforts, was the collective advancement of women. But that fight is not over. Not every woman can do every job, nor can every man do every job. But until every woman has equal opportunity to perform the equal work, to compete for the equal job with equal pay of every man, without being undermined by men or by other women, the fight must continue. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you so much. So I'm going to call in our young ladies who've been patiently waiting and shivering to perform for us, and then we'll have a few more speakers, and that will conclude our program. So while they're getting ready, this is the Dance Innovations from Chatham, and we're going to hear a spoken word poem written by Ali R.A., who unfortunately was not able to attend. She had an emergency. But they've been collaborating for more than 10 years, the choreography of Dance Innovations, with Ali's empowering words. So you tell me if you're ready to go, otherwise I can keep talking. You're good? All right. Take it away, ladies.
Wendy, how many times have we heard this year is our year? Geared ourselves up with resolutions to do lists and goals, and sat eagerly at the feet of December 31st. We let promise meet us fresh off a holiday high, with eyes so bright we don't even need the year-shaped glasses. I was believing for so much. 2020. 2020 entered with avoiding any skepticism, without any alarming uncertainty. He was able to love me with the familiarity of crisp mornings and countdowns until spring. I was greeted like a new friend, but a stranger that I carried the comforts of his history. I didn't suspect a thing until it hit. He connected like heavyweight champions on bare chests, off guard in the final round after already running a marathon to get to the starting line. Collapsing me to all I can equate to is the feeling of being 5 feet in a 10-foot pool with cement shoes. Bringing groceries into a 7-story building with an elevator that says out of order. Mixed with times, teen suicides, and a 2-a-day practice in the middle of the summer. And I just couldn't keep up. Not with policies, nor cases, not with deaths or adaptations. Every time I thought it had plateaued, I hit another incline. And as we lapsed back around to December, I realized anticipation looked a whole lot different from this finish line. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we were off again. And without any real cooperation or adjustments, I felt like I had enlisted in a war of one. For me, by me, against me, for the sake of, I claim this land in the name of progression and deep breaths. Like peace's address in my resting heart rate. Just a vial full of disdain and an ounce of hope that maybe this time history would not repeat itself. And that slowed my pulse a little. I kept the throbbing in my heart on lock and key, a subtle ring to remind me of what exhaustion felt like. And that kept me on a tightrope between anxiety and reality. Some days I was able to look at myself in the mirror and drape myself in every affirmation that my heart had hidden in its deepest crevices. And oxygen began to raise my chest a little higher. Some days I opted to get better acquainted with closed shutters, cheek kisses from my pillowcases, and comforter cocoons. And fear would get reacquainted with my heartbeat. Startled to speak versus wanting to pour out. committing to conquering doubt versus letting it all take over me, envisioning a world where I could be free versus convincing myself that confinement is comforting. And there was one thing that last year taught me, it was endurance. That even when it feels like your last step, convince yourself that there is one more, and then repeat. That even when your chest is tight, just the fact you can feel this pain is proof that you are still breathing. And today, that may be enough, but don't be afraid to try again tomorrow. Understand that being lax becomes less significant when you are focused on your own stride. Are you breathing? At this very moment, are your teeth clenched? Are your shoulders too busy comforting your jawline that you may have forgotten their resting place? Has your inhale been interrupted by 700 words of yesterday's lodge within your lungs? Or have you found yourself feeling guilty that there is even an exhale still left to be had? Nevertheless, what's important is the reminder that there is purpose in this pulse, strength in every staggered sigh, and heaviness in your next heave. Resting doesn't mean flatline, but instead creates an open invitation for peace, an opportunity for grounded feet, and I yearn to feel centered again. Today, I'm giving myself permission to be winded, because that's stronger than being keeled over, gasping, wondering how long my heartbeat will be visiting my brain. It says more to me about my determination for victory than it has never begun running from the start. I'd rather be winded because it tells the last 2 years it didn't get to me, despite their best efforts to force surrender. Today, I'm giving myself permission to catch my breath. And even if today it doesn't settle, that's still one take in and one release in the right direction.
Thank you so much. That was fabulous. Let's give another round of applause to Dance Innovation. All right, so the purpose of our event today is to lift up women and other women, so let's hang in there. We've got a few more terrific female speakers today. Next up, we're going to hear from Beth Prozuk, I hope I got your name correct, who has spent her career in the field of information technology. So we're going from the arts to technology. She's a senior IT specialist, app developer, and a strong advocate for getting more women in STEM.
Thank you. So yes, I'm a programmer and web app developer. Throughout my career, I can count the number of women programmers I've worked with on one hand. I have been very fortunate, but still, the struggles I've encountered being a woman in this male-dominated field are the very common lack of support for advancement from employers and the difficulty in finding a mentor. Male-dominated work environments are not conducive to women's needs, such as maternity care, maternity leaves, child care, and often health care. I am glad I weathered the storms and continued to follow the career that I grow to love more every day. It's hard to be brief when discussing why women should be more involved in STEM fields, but just to mention a few important facts. STEM fields account for some of the fastest growing and highest paying jobs. Getting more women in these fields can help contend with the gender pay gap and increase women's economic independence and security. This is especially important as marriage rates are declining for young people, which has significant financial implications for women especially. Technology defines the world around us. AI is quickly taking over decision-making for healthcare, finances, pretty much everything, and it already is gender biased. Women need to take part in building this system in order to be represented fairly and accurately within it. I'm driven to empower girls to fight stereotypes and follow their dreams to pursue STEM education. In order to do this, we women need to work together and be role models for the girls coming up behind us. The American Association of University Women has been the mechanism I have chosen to make a difference for women and girls in my community. Being a part of the AAUW has been an amazing experience. I have met so many women mentors that have inspired me and become like family over the years. The AAUW has given me the opportunity to learn so many skills that have transferred directly into my professional life and made me stronger in my career. It's important that we all work together. I encourage everyone to find your group, join the AAUW Madison branch, build your community, and make change. We raise a lot higher when we lift each other up and we become stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to do the intros for the next couple of speakers because I know we're getting a little cold up here. Next up, we're going to have Dover Mayor Carolyn Blackman. She'll be followed by our County Clerk, Ann Grossi. And then we're going to hear our last, how should I put this, speaker who's out of high school, will be Leslie Bensley. And then we're going to hear from a student to wrap things up. Okay, so ladies, why don't we go ahead. Carolyn, you want to come up?
Good afternoon, everyone. When I was asked to come here to speak, I thought about, you could speak forever, but I just want to give you a little history of how I got to where I am. I always feel like I'm a country girl. I'm still a country girl. I came to New Jersey. I lived on a farm. I'm one of 12 sisters and brothers. 6 sisters that became nurses and 6 brothers became carpenters. My story is short, simple, anyone can follow. I first got involved with being part of the community. I ran for a council person in Dover in 2008. I had a dream that I could do it, and I did. I don't know how, but I did. And then I decided, in 2019, I would run for the mayor of Dover. I knew that would be a challenge, a huge challenge. But why I ran was because my roots really started at home with my sisters, brothers, my mother and father. They taught us the values of building a business and building a relationship with the community and building a relationship with people, because you need people to get to where you need to go in life. In my home, my father decided we're going to go on a trip. We got in the car, if you can imagine, 12 people in one little car. And back there we only had 2 doors, so we had to pile the big ones in the back and the little ones sit on the front ones. But we all got in the car. We were driven to Washington, D.C. to march with Dr. Martin Luther King. And at that speech is where I learned I could be whatever I wanted to be. There were 3 things I took away from there, and that was learn, listen, and respect. And if you can do that, you can lead. I had many years of experience building relationships within my community. I volunteered there for 15 years, building relationships. I also decided, after not wanting to be a nurse anymore, I started knocking on doors for a cosmetic company where I sold lipsticks for a living, and I did very well. So it's not always the high job. You can do small jobs and still become and have a career. I then became a regional manager for over 25 years, serving over 2,500 ladies, helping them to develop and to make money. They were selling lipsticks at $1 each, and they were getting 50% of the profit. So in all of that, all the experience dealing with people, I decided I could be a mayor in Dover. I was the first black lady to be on the council in Dover in 2008, and I am the first black mayor that I know of in Morris County. And I have to tell you, it has been difficulty. I didn't realize that being a woman and the color of your skin could make a difference in 2019. If you Google Dover, you can see the challenges that I had to overcome to become the mayor there today. And I asked myself the question over and over as I was running for mayor, do you really want to run this race? I said, I'm in the race, and I'm in the race to win. And I stayed in the race. I had challenge after challenge after challenge. They were not nice names, they were not nice words, but I figured, I'm a strong person and I can work around the different challenges. I was in office for 2 months when COVID-19 hit us, and in my town, we were having approximately 20 cases per day. So I was a new mayor with the challenge of dealing with COVID-19. But I knew that if I took on this challenge, I was strong enough to do it, and I had to have a solution on how to resolve the problems. Solutions just popped out of the sky to help us in Dover, and I myself felt that with all the knowledge and all the people and relationships I had built, I could do anything. So I stand here today to tell you, don't be afraid to take the step no matter what anyone says for you. And I assess my career to building relationships, listening to people, and number one is to respect everyone, whether you agree or disagree. And thank you for having me here today.
Sitting there in the polo all that time. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Brassi. I'm currently the Morris County Clerk, but I'm not here to talk to you today about that because I was the first woman to hold the position of Chief of Enforcement over all enforcement activities throughout the state of New Jersey in the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. I worked in civil rights for over a decade. I haven't been there in a while, but I did work there for over a decade, and I just want to address some of the issues that I found that deal specifically with women. There are a lot, obviously, in civil rights, the issues that deal with everybody, somebody's age, their color, their whether they're gay, or how AIDS affected people. But what I want to talk to is give you some insights on the good stuff that was done in the decade of the 80s, 70s into the 80s. So, how many people here were teachers or are teachers? Do we have any teachers in the crowd? Okay, well, some of you might not, right? The younger generation has no idea that this was a rule. Back then, in the 70s and into the 80s, into the early 80s anyway, if you were a teacher and you got pregnant, you used to hide your pregnancy because there was a rule that was across the board in the whole state of New Jersey. If you were pregnant, you were going out for 2 years on an unpaid family leave. You were there, you were going to be, because the thought was that as a woman, child development during the first 2 years, or this may have been an excuse, but during the first 2 years, that's when child needs their mother at home the most. That was the thought. So women were automatically let go for 2 years. They had a job when they came back, but it was a 2-year stint without pay. That caused a lot of women to wind up on welfare and other areas because they still needed to support their families. In fact, I had personally had a friend who was a teacher in Union City, and this exact thing happened to her. So that was something that we worked on at the Division on Civil Rights. The Division on Civil Rights was formed in 1945. So New Jersey was at the forefront of civil rights activity, trying to bring fairness and equity to the residents in this state. And I'm very proud to have been working with that during that age. Now let me talk to you about some other things. Dry cleaning. If a woman brought a suit to be dry cleaned or a shirt, they paid more money for it. Than a man. The idea was that women's suits or women's blouses are more frilly, they have more delicateness to them, some kind of nonsense like that. And so we paid more to get our suits done. That ended during my time at the Division on Civil Rights. All right, country clubs. Women, you could not join a country club on your own. It was not a possibility. To join a country club, you had to be married, and that man, your husband, was the one who joined, and then the family came along as part of the package. Want to golf? The women were allowed to golf, but they were not allowed to golf, tee off in the mornings. Now everyone knows that if you tee off, you want to be, earlier you get out there, the better off you are. Well, you couldn't tee off until 1 o'clock. Those things were changed. Country clubs were not distinctly private. If something is distinctly private, they can pretty much make any rules that they want, which means there's no government money going to them, there's no breaks, there's no deals that they're getting from a government agency to have that club. But also, when clubs would rent out their facilities for weddings to people who were not members of their club, even if they were sponsored by a member, that's a public accommodation. You're going to take people off the street and let them come in and have a wedding, your daughter's wedding at that, or son's wedding at that country club. Well, guess what? You are no longer distinctly private, and you are no longer entitled to keep women out or keep minorities out or keep people of different Jewish people out, Italian people out, just because Spanish people out, or to tell women they can't get a tea at an earlier time. These are the things that were done during that time. We don't have, this is going to really, it sounds strange to a lot of people, but how about going to a restaurant? There were some restaurants back in the 70s and early 80s that would not let a woman in if she wasn't accompanied by a man, all right? Or they wouldn't give you a menu that had prices on it. One of these restaurants was a boat that they used to moored in Hudson, and not in Secaucus, in the river there. And what they did was really, really shocking, because the woman they did it to was an investigator who worked for me, and she was so incensed when she came back that we made sure that was not going to be their policy after they did that. Okay, so how about this? Getting a mortgage. Not really easy for a woman back then to get a mortgage, especially a single woman, and they would scrutinize everything that you ever did, because they really didn't want to give you any money. So what we had, I remember I had a piece of property and I wanted to refinance it, and this was during the time when mortgages were like at 14% interest back then. And they actually wanted to know, what are you trying to do? Leverage your property? Yeah, like every guy that has property, I want to leverage it too. I want to be able to get a lower rate on my mortgage. They wouldn't do it. I had to really struggle to find a bank who would give me refinance that building. And I actually found the bank. The bank doesn't exist anymore, but it was in Morristown. That's the bank. I think it was First Morris. I'm not really sure, but that's where I first got refinance. Was able to refinance that building. So, you know, independent of a husband, you had a really hard time even getting a credit card. You had to build up some kind of credit. So what I did was I built up credit by buying some very expensive steak knives and then paying it off instead of paying it for it all at once. I had the ability to pay for it all at once, but I needed to build a credit rating. So that's how I built my credit rating. But these are the things that we don't have to deal with anymore, which was all of these things were dealt with at the Division on Civil Rights. Public speaking, sexual harassment. I used to do public speaking a lot on sexual harassment in the workplace. So I'm going to tell you a story. I went to speak before an international company. They were based in Germany. So I went through this. I used to go through this speech where I would say what sexual harassment isn't and what it is. And one of the things I would say is, although this may be out of date now, but you know, if you're at the water cooler and you go up to the woman that's there in your office and you want to take the woman out on a date and you ask her and she wants to go, that's not sexual harassment. But if you go up to the water cooler to ask her out and she says no, and then you keep going up to the water cooler, you keep going up to her desk, you keep bothering her, then it turns into a hostile work environment where yes, now you're guilty of sexual harassment. So after I gave this speech, the president from Germany came up and said, well, we must have more water coolers, you know? I was like, well, he missed the point, didn't he? All right, so, yeah. So, you know, and although I'm not here to discuss being in the Morris County Clerk, but I think I'd be remiss. I have a lot of stories, though. Let me just tell you that. So if anyone wants to hear all of my stories, I can do that. But I'd be happy to share them. I shared them with Amelia about a month or so ago. So I think that's why I'm here, because I shared my stories with her. But I was the first female to be the Chief of Enforcement over the Division on Civil Rights, a job that I loved. I also love my county clerk job, but I want you to know that in 284 years, that's how old this Morris County is, that there's only been 2 women as clerks, my predecessor, Joan, and myself. And I'm proud to be the second woman to follow in her footsteps because she broke the ground for me when I came in. Thank you, everybody. I hope to see you again soon.
Okay, I'm the closer, so bear with me, everybody. Many thanks to the League of Women Voters for inviting me to participate today. I'm a proud member of the League, and I support efforts such as this that promote nonpartisan participation in our government. I'm Leslie Bensley, by the way. So for the last 24 years, I was the first director of the Morris County Tourism Bureau, and our job was to market Morris County as a tourism destination. We were an entirely female-led organization, and I believe that we were exceptionally productive in no small part because of the embracing and supportive environment that my team created. So from the beginning, our mission was to put Morris County on the map. And we started with very little funding, but as we gained traction, we were able to create lots of programmatic activities, such as historic walking tours, revolutionary times, Holly Walk, and other house tours. We received funding from the New Jersey Division of Travel and Tourism to do creative marketing. So we ran advertising campaign. Most recently, we were in the New York Times. You might have seen us on their digital page. But I think one of the things I'm most proud of is having erected massive wayfinding signs on off of 287 on exit 35 and 36, and dozens of pedestrian kiosks, so you can always find your way to places that matter. This tells you a little bit about what we did, but I think the most important thing I want to leave you with today is why did we do it? And we did it because Morris County has an illustrious history and culture. So we commissioned a report in 2001, and I often cite how they summarize the importance of Morris County. Morris County is home to some of the most distinguished heritage attractions in the Northeast and perhaps the entire United States. As the birthplace of the telegraph, force in the American craft movement, and major contributor to the success of the American Revolution, Morris County boasts 3 centuries of history, and together they create a string of pearls worthy of a visit. So, not only did we want to reach people from further afield, we wanted to reach people such as yourselves. And so, with women making 60% of travel decisions, and the number one reason people traveling is to have, and the number one reason people travel is to visit family and friends. And so I urge you, now that life is reawakening after the pandemic, to be a visitor in your own backyard. When's the last time you visited McCullough Hall, for example? They're having a wonderful house tour on May the 1st, and it features one of our National Historic Landmarks, the Thomas Nast House. Or when's the last time you've been to Jockey Hollow, Fort Nonsense, or the Ford Mansion? And did I mention it's free to visit the national park? I encourage you to make that effort, especially now, given how democratic challenges are taking place here and abroad, and to immerse yourself in the valiant efforts of General George Washington and his brave soldiers during the hard winter of 1779-80. Now, I know we're all cold, but it's nothing that can be compared to what the soldiers at Jockey Hollow endured, 28 snowstorms. So in closing, the United States was formed as a bold experiment designed to demonstrate the possibilities of creating a society governed by ordinary citizens that give full expression to the ideals of liberty, justice, and opportunity for all. And we nearly lost that opportunity to realize that glorious vision, but for what happened right here in Morristown. So please help me by being a great ambassador for this illustrious history and keep putting Morris County on the map. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Leslie. So our last, but definitely not our least speaker, is a wonderful young lady, Caroline Aklo. I hope I'm pronouncing. Come on up. A senior from Morristown High School. Caroline immigrated to the U.S. from Ghana when she was just 10 years old. I don't think she's much older now. And she's going to talk about her hero, or in this case, her shiro. So take it away, Caroline.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline Oklu, and as a young adult, Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. So as a teenager, I do like the Korean pop group BTS and other public figures and entertainers. But however, my mom has been my real hero, my inspiration, and has inspired me in a lot of ways even today. Her resiliency to deal with the things that came her way is something I've always looked up to. Whether she had to deal with the problems with her job, which she was a seamstress, or her complications with her pregnancy, she always tried for those things not to get in the way of what she had to do in life. Although while giving birth to my brother, she died along with him, she still holds a strong place in my heart. And I want to take the time today to honor my mother. Sorry. Okay. I wanted to take the time today to honor my dear mother, and if she can hear me, I want her to know that despite the fact that many people did not believe in me, I did it. Mother, I will soon finish high school, and even better, I am on my way to attending a four-year college. And yes, I have become the strong lady that you were. I am resilient, hardworking, humble, and kind. And just like how you tried to raise me the few years you had with me. Although I'm only 17, I will still make you proud. Despite the challenges I face in life, I will continue to be as perseverant and strong as you were. After all, my name is Caroline, which means strong, so I will live up to that name. I miss you dearly, Mother, but you are still the light that shines my path. Thank you.
That was really beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for hanging in. I want to invite all of our speakers. We're going to get a group photo of everyone. So Beth, if you could come back up, and all of our speakers, we're going to just take a group photo. Thank you so much for coming out, and I hope you were inspired, and you can go onto the hit the QR code if you want to hear from or read more about the ladies. But thank you again to all of our fabulous speakers. So let's step in front of the podium.
We're doing this to keep warm.
No, that's okay.
It was.